Good morning. I'm your host, Fred Ellis, on your pottery adventure. This is Something Southern Pottery. We want to welcome you and hope that you have an enjoyable experience with your pottery. There's Jalen busy at her wheel making pots. Here's Laura. She's sitting in her area decorating the pots. Good morning. You might not recognize me, or you might with all this stuff on. I'm going to take some of it off. Today we're going to be glazing some of the mugs that we threw before, and you saw some of Laura decorating them. They have all been bisque fired now. We're going to glaze them, but first of all, I'm going to mix up some glazes. That's why the safety outfit, the mask. It's an N95. I have a respirator. We could use that, but the N95 it'll stop all the particulate or anything that's damaging. You never want to breathe clay dust if you can help it. It has glass in it. It's silica. It will ruin your lungs. There's a disease called silicosis. People who work in mines, it used to be more prevalent than it is, but people who work in mines had silicosis. A lot of potters had it and suffered with it, and it's a terrible respiratory disease. So anytime you're messing with dry chemicals, be sure and wear a mask. I also wear rubber gloves. These are to stop, I forget, there's something they call it, keeps the permeability out of it. You can't get through it, so you can use it for toxic chemicals. Basically, what we're not using is real toxic chemicals, but all chemicals have bad properties to them, so let's avoid it. Let's wear gloves, wear a mask, and mix it up. I'm going to make a clear glaze today, so I'm only going to use two chemicals in it. I use a clay and a flux to lower the melting temperature on that clay. So we get down three elements: water, two particular chemicals. I use Gersley borate. Gersley is the flux on this and helps bring down the melting temperature of the rest of the chemicals and elements in it. I'm also going to be using PV clay, plastic Vitrox. It's one of my, those two are my main glaze. They're the bases at a 50-50 ratio. I use 50% Gersley, 50% PV. If I want my chemicals to have a colorant, I will use a colorant like copper oxide or copper carbonates. Carbonates are cheaper, easier. They're very easy to use. It takes a little more of them, but they are cheaper. Cobalt oxide or carbonate. I use mostly carbonates. There again, it's a matter of trial and error, what works for you. Remember, I'm not going to tell you which one is best to use. I'm going to tell you what Fred uses, and this is Fred's. So we're going to start mixing them up. As you can see, I have my scale here. It's just a common household scale. It's been calibrated to take in the tare weight of the container. I will weigh out these chemicals. Have the rest of my tools here. I'm going to need a sponge to wipe the bottoms off my pots, something to help mix it with, something to scrape it off the sides with, something to hold the pots as I glaze them, separate containers to put them in, and a water container to mix it up. After I mix it, I also have a sieve. It is an 80 mesh sieve that I strain. That takes enough of the large particulate that I don't want in my glaze. It takes it out of it. You basically should then let it sit overnight, stir it again tomorrow, sieve it one more time is what I normally do, and then take something and use as a test glaze to make sure that it's working. I've used this glaze long enough, I can pretty much count and do it. I still do sometimes just to check and be sure. Let's start mixing them up. I'm going to put this back on, put my eyes back on so I can see what I'm doing. And I have my two chemicals, PV clay and Gersley borate. Now I have 2 gallons of water in my container here. I'm only going to mix up about 2.5 to 3 gallons. Thank you. So let's weigh out. Start with my PV clay. Right at 2 pounds. And there we have 5 pounds of Normally I would probably clean out my containers or use different ones, but in this particular case, since these are the only 2 chemicals going into it, I'm not going to worry too much about contamination. That's 2 pounds. Four. And we now have 5 pounds of each chemical, or 10 pounds of dry material. Now 10 pounds of dry material should do and make 3 gallons. Now I'm going to remove some of this for just a second and hook my drill up. I have a nice paint mixer on here that I use. Thank you. All right, we have contact. All right, now always put dry into wet. If you try and put wet into dry, you're going to make a mess that you will have to work with. And before I get started on this, I need to do one thing, and that is mix these 2 chemicals together in their dry state. And that is, you do that because, let's say you had a couple of more chemicals in there. Most glazes are never composed over more than 5, sometimes 6 ingredients to get it to the consistency and the state you want it to be. Like I say, I use very simple glazes. I got them when I first took my very first lesson. Like I said, I took it from a fellow up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, called Bob Fazio. And he was a student of a potter named Charles Counts, who has written several books on the subject. Went to Africa, wrote more books. Very, very good. Charles is deceased now. But I've read his books, and I took some of his glazes and I altered them to my own use. And I thank him for that. And now I'll start mixing the liquid, putting it in the liquid. And the reason you put dry into wet, again, in case I forgot to tell you, is that you don't want clumps. If you sometimes different chemicals will absorb water at different ratios, and they'll make clumps, and you'll have a bright color here and a dull color there, and you want it to be even. This has no color or anything in it. We're just going for a nice clear glaze. All right. Now what we're going to do is sieve all this, that it's all mixed up. Couple of things, it'll take out any unwanted or most of the unwanted particulate if you have it in there. And remember, this is mined and processed. Now, they do a fine job of it. About 10 or 12 years ago, maybe 15, we went through a real scare with the Gersley mine shutting down. It's pottery is a very small portion of, we use chemicals in everything we do. Our clay, our glazes. There's something that has to be mined by someone. If we don't do it ourselves, somebody else has to. And it's done. Pottery is a small amount of the overall scheme of things worldwide. So when the commercial demand went down for Gersley borate, they were going to close the Gersley mine, and we were scrambling to find a substitute for the Gersley borate. nothing was as good. Most potters found a way. I know several who, like me, use it as a great base in their glazes. There are other things that will do, but none of them do quite as well. So, I think Laguna Clay Company eventually bought the mine, and they mine it now. I could stand corrected on that. I'm not absolutely sure, but I believe that's how it went down. But anyway, we got our Gersley back. Now I'm going to put about another gallon overall in my bucket in this particular mix we've got. So I'm using it to rinse out my equipment with. Let me rinse off my It's good if you can figure out how to use things for more than one thing. Use it to clean up with and get your bucket squared around. Pour it in here. Use it to clean that with. Now I'll have minimum cleanup to do because I've cleaned the majority of it as I went and got all the chemical and particulate back into the mix. True. You accuse me of doing that all the time. I don't think I do, but then again. As you can see, there's not much, but you can see a little bit as I get it down in the bottom there. But you don't want that in your glaze. You don't want it popping up on the side of your pots. You don't know whether it would disappear or not. So let's assume that it wouldn't. And we now have a full thing of, or at least three gallons of glaze to use. We're finished up with the glaze. The glaze is all mixed. With time going on, we've actually mixed this up, put it together. Did a couple of test pieces in the last glaze firing, so we know that this is good now. Whenever I get a chance, I always try and fire my glazes after I mix them up. There again, chemicals can change. They're mined on a huge mining process. Sometimes the vein of something, whichever chemical you're using, can change a little bit. And thank you. That takes care of this portion of the video, May the 3rd. But we've got an open house, open studio. We've got some other potters who are participating. If you get a chance, come by and see us. If not, please like the videos. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook. Check out our website. But that wraps up the glazing portion of this video, and we will see you next time. Thank you. This is Fred Ellis for Something Southern. Good day.